Doug Frank has been really a blessing to this church and to many of us. Doug Frank was, they call him Johnny Appleseed of the voting integrity movement, and thank God for him. I want you to remember this. We have some of the best speakers in the world that are coming to this. And like you, they paid their own way. They paid for their own flights. They are coming to serve the greater cause of child rescue. And so it's really an honor to have each of them here. But Doug Frank has not only volunteered to come and speak at the conference, but he has helped in a lot of ways behind the scenes. He was one of the guys, I told you, I put a list of the people that I would really want to have on a board and prayed over it and then began to contact them. And they all said yes, but Doug was excited. I just thought, what is going on with this guy? He's like, can't wait, me, pick me, can't wait, want to help. And it's because of what God was doing in his heart, which is a really, really beautiful thing. And so he's not only on the board, but he is doing some of the heavy lifting. And I'm just thrilled with Doug Frank. Doug Frank is a hero to the United States of America and a hero in the kingdom of God. Let's welcome Doug Frank.
Well, while we're getting the tech to work, I'll promote the merch. You saw that Tony had his REV17 shirt on. They gave me one of those too, but I got my REV17 water bottle. So if you want to help, go on to pieceofheaven.life, and there's a link there to take you to merchandise, or you can go to pieceofheaven.shop, S-H-O-P. I know you like to shop. So anyway, thank you. I should have water anyway. How's it going? Are we live? Let's see. My stuff isn't showing up there yet, so we'll see. Let's see here. Sorry, guys. This is technology for you. What's that? You're welcome, brother. So when Pastor asked me to talk, I said, I need about 2 hours. And he said, well, we got a lot of really good speakers, and he's right. And so while we're getting this figured out, I just want to tell you something that happened yesterday. We had our first, are we good? All right. We had a board meeting yesterday with 10 of us. Tony's Brewer's on there. And I just have to tell you that the Holy Spirit was there. And it was not just a good meeting, it was an electrifying meeting, okay? And the pastor has put together, Pastor Dave has put together an amazing team of people. I mean, you just met one of them, right? And I just feel honored to even be on that team, much less to be able to contribute in such an amazing way. And I would just like to say to you, I'm about to talk to you about God doesn't waste a thing. Every talent you have, every resource you have, every opportunity, every minute, every millisecond of your life, God has given you, and you need to give that to him. And when you do that, he will multiply it amazingly. So anyway, that's what I'm going to talk to you about. Pretty easy topic to talk about. God doesn't waste a thing. So anyway, problem is I could talk for hours, so I only have a little bit of time, but I'll do my best here. Let's see, I could put my pointer in here. Yeah, The gift God gave me is my mouth flaps, okay? And I could talk for hours and hours. I'm gonna do my best. If you wanna catch up with me, you can take a picture of that or look me up later, but I would be delighted to help with you. I already told you about the electrifying Piece of Heaven meeting yesterday. It was just amazing, amazing. And God doesn't waste a thing. That's what I'm gonna talk about. So I was born in Northern California. My mom was a chemist, and she won the chemistry prize. So that's where I got my science. Did I have anything to do with that? No, my mother gave me that, right? My father was the class president, and they were up at Shasta County, so that's where I got my leadership. I don't think I'm an accident. I don't think you're an accident. I'm a scientist. I think about things in a little different way. God is outside of time and space. God arranges everything because he's had an infinite amount of opportunity before and after to create what's happening right now. It's awesome. So anyway, I have Cherokee blood. My father has a funny name. It's Giwana, but I have a lot more than she does, okay? My middle name is Giwana. If you want to say, hey, Giwana, how's it going? You can call me Giwana. It means big black horse, and you can just call me Stud. It's easier. All right. Okay. I grew up in Northern California on an Angus ranch. It was awesome. And the thing about that, it's amazing what you learn on a farm. When you're in touch with nature, capital N nature, God teaches you a lot of things. And so a lot of the wisdom that I've learned in my life is from that. And I got to tell you, I was nominated for a Nobel Prize in 1990 for one of my chemistry discoveries. And scientists from all around the world used to come and visit me. And they'd say, where'd you learn to do that? Where'd you learn to do that? I'd say, on the farm, okay? It's amazing what you can learn on the farm. But I just want to tell you, I was driving the hay truck one day up in Sonoma County. And I was picking up stuff. And the library was closing down. And so they took all the books that nobody ever checked out and put them out on books tables, and they were, because they had a new library across town, and they didn't want to bring the old dead books nobody read. And the Feynman lectures on physics were out there on the table. I bought them for $0.10 a piece. Those books are now worth about $1,500. But I read those as an after eighth grade in the summer, and I've been a physicist ever since. I don't think that's an accident. I think God doesn't waste a thing. Okay, he didn't waste those books either, okay? And I went to school in Santa Barbara, Westmont College, because I had questions about my faith. It was interesting for me. I was also a musician, so God doesn't waste a thing. The thing about talents is the more he gives you, the more he expects, okay? So don't waste any of your talents. Use them all. I was a music minister for 40 years, so that's So anyway, I'm pretty good at science. So I got my PhD, University of California, Santa Barbara. I went out to Ohio, where I live now with my beautiful family. I've been married 43 years. God doesn't waste a thing. In 10th grade, my beautiful wife walked into the Christians on Campus group, and guess what? I told her 3 weeks later, I'm going to marry you, right? and that is the way it works. And I'm telling you, God doesn't waste a thing. The first time I walked into this church, I looked up on the wall and saw a picture of Mario Murillo. Mario Murillo's mother was our housekeeper. Okay? God doesn't waste a thing. Every detail, okay? As a boy, I was cutting my teeth down at Resurrection City Church in Berkeley. We were preaching on the corners, okay? It's amazing. God doesn't waste a thing. How many spirit-filled physicists you know? Okay. That's me. Okay. So anyway, but I'm a real scientist. I have 60 scientific peer-reviewed publications. I'm not bragging. I just need you to know that I'm the real deal. I'm a real scientist, okay? And I believe this stuff. And that makes me a little strange, I guess. I live near Springfield, Ohio. Everybody heard about Springfield, Ohio because of the debates last year. Remember the presidential debates? And it was a problem in our community because we were being raided by, but I want you to know, boy, Troy really warmed you guys up. You're laughing great. That's awesome. But it's all okay now because Trump's on the job. That's awesome. All right. So how did a physicist get involved in all this? The answer is I love numbers, and I love working on big data sets and modeling. And if I had an hour, I would show you all the cool stuff I've been modeling over the years. I've been modeling elections since Reagan's first term. I've been modeling epidemics since AIDS. Wait a minute, elections and epidemics, huh? Has that been important recently? Okay. God doesn't waste a thing. Okay, that's a big deal. Well, then I could tell you about Pennsylvania, but I don't want to. But Mr. Lindell discovered me, and he made a movie about me called Scientific Proof. And suddenly 10 million people knew who I was, and I've been traveling the country ever since, walking in faith, trusting God to provide, and he's doing great. The president discovered who I was. I was his first keynote speaker at his first event after being out of office. He said, Dr. Frank, I want you to explain to the world how they stole my election. So as I've been, and that just happened the other night, right? He's appointed a special prosecutor to that. Isn't that cool? Well, we'll see how that goes. God doesn't waste a thing, okay? And so I've been traveling the country, and they call me the Johnny Appleseed of election integrity because I go all around the country teaching everybody about elections. But I got to tell you, I feel more like, instead of planting seeds, like I'm cross-pollinating. I'm gathering evidence. And this is why it's connected to today. This is why I wanted to tell you. As I've been traveling the country, I thought I was going to be helping fix elections. I thought that's what I was going to be doing, and I've been doing that big time, especially in California. Just keep your ear to the track, stuff's coming up. But everywhere I go, it is the strangest thing. I run into child trafficking. Imagine somebody involved in a political arena, which I'm in. Everywhere I go, I run into child trafficking. I did not expect that. I'm going to just start with a little story. When I was at Westmont in Philosophy 101, our professor asked a question. He said, is there such a thing as absolute truth? And he said, here's a question you can ask yourself. I'll never forget this. This is 40 years ago. Here's a question you can ask yourself if you want to know if there's absolute truth. Here's the question. Is it always wrong to torture infants for your own pleasure? God doesn't waste a thing. Is it always wrong? Heck yeah. Okay, it's always wrong. And the beautiful thing about that is if you acknowledge that, then that absolute truth, if you acknowledge absolute truth exists, you can't get out of the argument that there's a source for absolute truth. And that leads logically to the existence of God, and it leads to the existence. And so that's a great argument. But guess what? Even as 40 years ago, I'm already being prepared for this war, okay? It's awesome. And one of the things you can share with your friends, if they say, oh yeah, trafficking, big deal. This is a common theme. You can say, well, what do you think? If you're not gonna engage this war, is it okay to torture children for your own pleasure? Everybody is gonna say, of course not, except maybe perverts. Okay, and we need to take care of those buggers. All right. Anyway, so I just want to tell you a little story. So I was driving through Indiana. Through, field, cornfield. And I come upon this beautiful little church, White Steeple Church, and where I was going to speak that night. About 100 people showed up. And I got all set up, my projector set up and everything, and I was sitting down with the pastor, and we were having a cup of coffee, and I said, so tell me about your life, pastor. He says, I'm a half-time pastor, half-time parole officer. Oh, okay. What's that like? And he says, well, at any given time, I have 20 cases. And right now, he says, 18 of my 20 cases are former child abductors. What do you mean, abductors? They're out of prison, they're abducting children? He goes, yeah. I said, what's the recidivism rate? What's the rate at which they repeat that offense? 80%. Wait a minute. They're letting people out of prison that are going to abduct children, and if you do the math, that means we're gonna have 14 more children at minimum if you catch them the first time abducting children. And he's like, yep, that's the system. He says, but here's what you really need to know. He says, I have to read all these files about what these guys do and how they do it. And he says, all they do is they park their van next to the playground. Mama's sitting there on the park bench reading her magazine. She looks up and her kid's gone. He says that's what happens. He says, and then these perverts take their kid and they do whatever they're going to do. And it's hard to think about it, isn't it? It's hard to think about it, but we're here, we're adults, and we're just going to say these things. But they have their way with the kid, and they're tired of them. He says what used to happen 20, 25 years ago, he says, when those perverts would be done with them, is they'd take them out and bury them in the woods somewhere. That would be the end of that. He says, but today, he says, today they don't take them out and bury them in the woods because they're worth $5,000. He says, so what they do is when they're done, they sell them into the black market and then they plan their next abduction. And they have full-time ability to do this because they're making so much income. So these are professional abductors. Does this make sense to you, what I'm saying? Okay, so I love Troy Brewer, isn't he awesome? Okay, and I love, and he can't really talk about what he's doing in the U.S., but all of his safe houses, at least that he can talk about, are outside the country. We're talking about having a safe house here, okay? And there are very few of these. It's something like 150 beds across the country total, where we're going to double that, okay? We're going to more than double that with this vision. And I'm telling you, this is a huge vision. I get to talk to you again tonight, later today, for another 30 minutes. And I want to tell you what vision the pastor has laid before us and how we're going to implement it. But anyway, I just want you to realize this is a real problem. This is not just bringing kids from other countries. This is in our own country. And I think this is a symptom of amazing depravity of our culture, that there is such a demand for these children. And it's not just a demand for them sexually, it's a demand for their organs, it's a demand for their other satanic rituals, et cetera, et cetera. It's a horrible, horrible problem. I'll just tell you another story now. And there's a reason I'm telling you these stories, because there's a common element to what I wanted to get across to you this morning. And that is that if we're counting on the government to fix this problem, we're in trouble. Okay, and I've learned through my election work that the governments are not going to fix our problem. And I've learned through trial and error and hard work for the last 4.5 years that the way we're going to fix this problem is when we, the people, step up and engage the problem. We're not waiting for the government to fix it. Thank you. But it's the same way with child trafficking. If we're waiting for them to fix it, it ain't going to be fixed because it permeates our government. Okay, and I'm going to tell you this story now. So I was speaking in North Carolina, and I showed up. I said North Carolina. I meant to say South Carolina. Sorry, but I've been both. Okay. So I show up at the airport, and people pick me up at the airport and bring me to the events, and I'm standing there on the curb because I got the call that my ride's going to be there, and up comes this federal marshal van, and out steps a federal marshal. He's completely decked out with all the security stuff and everything, and I thought, oh boy, I'm about to be arrested. But nope, he was my ride. And so my first thought was, wow, they really went overkill on my security for this event. This is awesome, right? And so I get in the van with him, and I said, how come you're all decked out? I mean, this is like a lot of security just for little old me. And he's like, no, he says, I just got off duty. Today I arrested an enforcer. I said, well, what's an enforcer? He says, an enforcer is a gang member sent up by the cartels to slaughter a family. And I'm like, well, what's that all about? And he goes, well, he says, here's how it works in general. This is kind of a summary, but it's in general. He says, you'll take a family in Central America or South America that's a mom and a dad and a daughter and a son, and they will go to the cartel and say, we want to go to America. And the cartel will say, great. Give us $30,000, you owe us $30,000. And they're like, well, we don't have $30,000. And they said, that's okay. We'll bring you to America, we'll install you in jobs, and when you pay the $30,000 off, then we're even, and we'll walk away with each other. So they're indentured servants, essentially. They come to America, and the father will typically be in construction or agriculture, same with the son. The mom will typically work as a maid, and they've already got the jobs all lined up. This is not like just drop them off and say good luck to you. Nuh-uh. They've got all the situation lined up. And then the daughter goes to a brothel. And I was like, oh, well, that's sad, to think about these little girls that have to go to these brothels. And, you've probably seen pictures of the panty trees as they're bringing them across. And And it's, I just don't even want to, I can't even leave that up there. It just hurts to even think about it. You know, one of the things that we're going to have to deal with, I'm kind of off a topic, but I got a couple of minutes. I'm just going to pause for a minute. I was up at a place up in northwestern Pennsylvania. I don't want to give the name right now. And it's a place that handles trafficked children and sex trafficked children. They don't have any carpet in any of their facilities because the children are incontinent. I wonder why. Okay, I don't know. It hurts to think about this. I want to give those children a magnificent place to live. I like Troy's idea. We're not just going to give them bread and water and a bed. We're going to create a paradise on earth for them, okay? Where they can feel the love of Christ and the love. And one of the things that was just shocking about that facility is every one of the rooms they have has kind of an alcove, and there are these pads next to the alcove. And these pads are like this tall, and they have handles on the back. And the purpose of those pads is so that when one of the kids start acting out, they can take these pads and force them into this little alcove room. And I'm like, I don't get it. All I want to do when I see one of these beautiful kids that have been abused, I just want to run up and hug them and tell them Jesus loves them. And I just want to hug them. They say, no, we can't touch them. Touching them is how they were traumatized. If we touch them again, it ruins their therapy. Think about that. So there's like all this stuff we're going to have to do. And I'm getting off topic. Anyway, so I'm riding with this U.S. Marshal in the car, and he's explaining how this works, where they import these families. And as we're driving along, he points over to a little strip mall, and he goes, and by the way, there's a brothel right there. I'm like, what? Looks like a dry cleaner to me and a pizza place. And he's like, nope, there's a brothel in the back of that. About 20 girls are there. And it's like, wow. And so, I'm assuming he's talking about that's what he just did that day in arresting the officers. And I'm also thinking to myself, how naive I am that I'm 60 years old and I don't know there's a brothel back there. How naive am I? So we're driving along and we're continuing to talk. And after about 5 minutes, he points to the other side of the room and he goes, there's a brothel right over there, back there. And it just dawned on me. And I said to him, wait a minute. You know where all the brothels are. Yep. Why? It's my job. Well, if you know where all the brothels are and you're a federal marshal, then our government knows where all the brothels are. Yes? Why are they there? He says, it's complicated, Dr. Frank. What do you mean it's complicated? Well, let's say we want to shut down this brothel that has 20 girls in it, right? Well, the problem is when the indentured servants come up here, the deal is all 4 of them have to stay consistent with the deal. The $30,000 debt has to be paid off. If any of the 4 leave the deal, all 4 of them are slaughtered. That's how they maintain. That's the discipline that they maintain. He says if we were to go rescue those 20 girls, we can't just rescue them. We have to rescue all 80 and relocate all 80. So that's the first complicating thing. He says the second complicating thing is that the law enforcement are customers. And he says if we bring it to trial, some of the judges are customers. And I say, well, wait a minute. And he goes right up the line and he starts explaining each level of our government, the protective services, all up the chain, all the way up to the legislative level in the state. And that was an eye-opener for me. It was a shocking thing. And it's one of the reasons why our elections are messed up. Because these people are controlled. How? When I first started working with Mr. Lindell 4 years ago, I sat down with 2 former Navy SEALs, and they were telling me my security protocols. They say, while you're on the road, here's what you want me to do. And they gave me all these things, and I rearranged my personal finances and all this stuff so that I could survive. I mean, the worst thing that's happened to me, I guess, is they took my cell phone, the FBI did, and they met me at airport and detained me sometimes and canceled my banks. What's the worst thing? Those are nothing. You could be sex trafficked. I figured I got off easy. Okay. So anyway, so where I'm going is these Navy SEALs sat me down and said, here's what we want you to do. You can never be alone with a woman on the road. Sounds good to me. I think my wife appreciates that too, okay? And they said, but the reason is because if you are, that your drink will get Mickey'd, and the next morning you'll wake up in a hotel room and they'll have pictures of you with children. And that's how they are controlling right up to the top levels of our government. You want to know why you're never going to see the Epstein files? There are too many big names on that list, okay? This is not going to be fixed by our government, because to fix it, they would have to expose themselves, okay? It isn't gonna happen. So that's unfortunately what I've learned. Another way this is enforced, I was in Idaho speaking to a group of election people. It seems like everywhere I go, I meet these child sex traffic people. It's incredible. I didn't plan for this, but God's in charge of every detail, and God doesn't waste a thing. Every place I go, it's like I run into the people that are, I spoke at a child trafficking, at an election integrity thing up in Erie, Pennsylvania. We're having a beer afterwards, and the guy says, oh, what are you doing, Dr. Frank? Oh, I'm on this board, Piece of Heaven, and I'm so excited about this thing we're doing out in California. He goes, what about it? I tell him all about it. He goes, Dr. Frank, he says, you just hit my passion. What's that? He says, I'm a construction guy. In the 8 months of the year, we build big, shopping centers and things like that. And in the 4 months that we're not doing official construction, we build special housing for sex trafficked kids out on this orphanage land up in Erie, Pennsylvania. And he said, he pulled out his phone, he says, I'm arranging a tour for you tomorrow. And so I spent the entire next day touring with these people that have been doing this for 30 years. And it is heartbreaking. It is heartbreaking. And as I was walking room to room, I got to see these kids and see how they are. And I just have to tell you something, and it just sounds so hard to say it, but I'm just gonna say it. When you see these little kids, 4, 5, 6 years old, they're just, you know how children are. They're just beautiful things. I just want to run up and hug every one of them. And we kind of have this idea of these beautiful children that we want to rescue. But I gotta say, as they were getting older, as I was going into the higher grade levels, these people, they're not beautiful. It hurts to say that. They're all pierced all out, they're damaged, they're injured, and I just want to redeem those kids. Jesus said, or Paul said, if anyone is in Christ, a new creature. There's no social program that is going to make those kids healthy again. There is no government institution that are going to make those kids healthy again. Only Jesus Christ can make those people beautiful again. Okay. And I love what Pastor was saying to me yesterday. He was like, Doug, he was talking to the board. He says, if we're just going to be another organization that raises money to help sex traffic kids, we're just not even going to do this. We'll just give the money to Troy Brewer, somebody that is doing good work. But that is not our vision. Our vision is to create a place where Jesus Christ can work and we can redeem these children. That is different in this country. And that is going to be a huge, huge challenge for a lot of reasons. Are you kidding? We're right here in the belly of the beast in California, okay? So this is a God thing, and God's gonna bring the resources, and we need everybody to be involved in this. And I know this is a fundraiser, and I appreciate that, and I'm telling you, give your money, okay? I'm not even making any money. I haven't for 4.5 years. When I started this work, I told my wife, honey, I'm setting my income aside for 6 months so I can save the country, and then I'll be back to work. That's 4.5 years ago, okay? So I'm not making any money anywhere, and I'm donating $100 a month. Not just $1 a day, $3 a day, okay? Okay? This is the real deal. Get your money into this, okay? But even more importantly, it isn't just about the money. It's about your talents, okay? Buy the merch, wear the merch, carry the merch, tell everybody. Educate the public about what this situation is and get them involved. So anyway, I got off my slides, but boy, I like to preach. I told you. But anyway, I ran into a ring of, I spoke to a nanny who worked for a home in Seattle. And these parents, there's a whole network of parents up there that all adopt children because they have studios in their basements and they trade the children. When she discovered it, she had to flee with her only son to another state because she was concerned for her life. So it's not just enforcement on the government of tattling on each other and protecting each other and controlling each other. It's also the network itself. Everyone in the network, they have pictures of everyone in the network so nobody fesses up, because if anybody fesses up, they are all in trouble. It's like a self-perpetuating problem. Our problem is we're all asleep. You know, President Trump, gotta love the guy. He says we're gonna make America great again. Well, he can't do it. De Tocqueville says, not until I went into the churches of America, this was in the early 1800s, not until I went into the churches in America and heard her pulpits flame with righteousness, did I understand the greatness and genius of America. America is great because America is good. And if America ever ceases to be good, America will cease to be great. Are we good? No way. We are in huge trouble. We don't follow God's commandments. We defile the things that are sacred. We murder our unborn infants. Right now, I'll run the numbers for you sometime. 1 in 5 of every pregnancy ends in an abortion. And out of every 3 households in America, 2 of them would have another family member today, except for legal abortion that we've had. That's a lot of people we're killed. You can't kill babies and make God happy, okay? Okay, we castrate our children. We don't know the difference between an innie and an outie, and we traffic our children. We are not good. We are in trouble. Okay, so, and since America is no longer good, she's no longer great. We need to, and we're steadily losing our liberty because of it. We, the people, are no longer sovereign. Other people, and that's why we're losing our government. That's why we're losing our liberty. This is a war between good and evil. We are taking on the whore of Babylon, baby, okay? We are throwing down the gauntlet. We are saying, I just want you to think about the cojones that takes for Pastor Dave to say, I'm throwing down the gauntlet, baby, bring it, okay? This is why it isn't just the money. Definitely get your wallets out. That's important. It's about you have to engage, because we don't fight the war with just one person. We need a lot of soldiers, okay? This is a real war. Find out those talents. And I love the best defense. Yuri Bezmenov is a Russian defector, and he talked about how our country was going to be undermined and how communism was going to take over our country. And Lee mentioned a lot of that last night in her talk. It was awesome, because I love Lee. She's awesome. She's on the board too. I get to hang out with these amazing people. It's awesome. It's awesome. But Yuri said the best defense against ideological subversion is to bring the society back to religion. The communists know that that is what this is all about. And I'll just finish with this, because I promised to stay on time. You know, in 2 Chronicles, the Bible says, you know, God says to us, he says, if my people, which are called by my name, will humble themselves and pray, seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and will forgive their sin and will heal their land. I hear this all the time. Oh yeah, God's gonna heal our land. God's gonna heal our land. No, it's an if-then proposition. It says, if my God's people will humble themselves, pray, seek his face, and turn from wicked ways, then God will hear from heaven, forgive our sins, and heal our lands. And the first thing that God says is, humble yourselves. What is humility? Humility is recognizing the gifts that God has given you, recognizing that he's put you in the circumstances, giving you the resources. It's easy to be humble when you have nothing to do with it. Okay? And it's your job, it's your obligation to God to ask yourself, how do I fit into this? What gifts and resources has God given me? Knowing that God has created you for a purpose. You explore the gifts that he's equipped you with. You embrace the work. This is an amazing time. What a privilege to be alive now and be able to gauge this war now. God doesn't waste anything. God doesn't waste anything. What gifts has he given you? Use them, because he's going to come back. Read Matthew 24. And he's going to say, I gave you 5 talents. What'd you do with them? Don't be the wicked servant that buried their talent. They invested their talent, and God said, welcome into my blessed. That's where we're going. So what gifts and circumstances has he provided? Well, here's a wonderful opportunity for you to get involved. And I just so am glad to have had the honor, really, to speak to you and encourage you to get engaged in this. This is amazing. This is amazing. This is a worldwide effort because we're fighting against a worldwide enemy. Thank you very much.